morning, and thank you for providing me this opportunity to speak to our community. Now, my intention today is to talk directly to the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish, providing you all with an update, aligning our community with the governor's April 30th stay-at-home order, and outlining action steps that we're taking for our community. As you know, it's been over 3 weeks since we have been canceling and rescheduling events in our parish and preparing our citizens for forthcoming adjustments to their daily lives because of the coronavirus. I want to take a moment to recognize my fellow East Baton Rouge Parish citizens. I want you to know that I certainly understand the challenges you're facing during this time of change. I want to recognize you for your adherence to the social distancing adjustments to your lives that have been implemented over the past 3 weeks. We have data showing that along with Orleans Jefferson compliance with the stay-at-home orders, which is contributing to flattening the curve for our community and for our state. And so along those lines, I would like to appeal to you as we go forward through this weekend and as we time that is traditionally spent with family, the resurrection of our Savior. It is critical for each and every one of us to continue intensively adhering to the physical at-home guidelines that have been extended. I appeal to the parents who have adjusted their daily schedule to care for their children, turning their dining room tables into a conference table, providing their kids with a desk for their schoolwork, and providing themselves with a desk to telework. I speak to the teachers who continue providing lesson plans and one-on-one assistance via conference calls, Zoom, and FaceTime to the students they so dearly care for. I speak to our children whose whole world has been significantly disrupted. Let us not forget that and are doing their absolute best to adjust to an at-home learning environment. I speak to our elderly population who at this time feel even more vulnerable and more socially isolated because they are staying separated out of an abundance of caution for their health and not getting their usual dose of hugs from children and grandchildren. I speak to those servers, those bartenders, warehouse workers, cosmetologists, gig workers, entrepreneurs, and anyone who has lost their job and they are uncertain about their ability to pay this month's bills and perhaps are navigating for the first time how to apply for unemployment assistance. I speak to our first responders diligently showing up to work, protecting our community, uncertain of what their next call holds. I speak to all of you, the citizens of this parish, who are adapting and adjusting in your own way in order to thrive in this temporary new normal. I want to encourage you, continue following these mitigation guidelines. Be vigilant about adhering to them. Do not be deterred. Over the next 2 weeks, we will see the total number of coronavirus cases get worse before they get better. Don't allow these numbers to create fear in your heart. And don't allow the very few in our community who defy the social distancing guidelines to interrupt your peace. Following the separation guidelines will have a major impact on the spread of the virus in our community. And I know you've heard this time and time again. If we turn back now and negate these restrictions in the coming weeks, we will see a rebound of this virus and extend the time for us to get back to our routine lives. I want you to know that while you remain dedicated to physical separation guidelines, to avoiding unnecessary travel, and to staying at home to every extent possible, I commit to you that I remain dedicated to taking every action within my purview and my influence to see this community through, so we can once again be the thriving East Baton Rouge Parish that we all call home. I want to take just a moment to compliment what we have seen to date and to recognize how our community has adjusted in order to continue being strong. action and adaptations from our families and businesses, assistance and guidance from our faith-based and nonprofit organizations. At every level of government, federal, state, and local, we have seen decisive action in addressing this pandemic. I want to recognize our congressional delegation members, Senators Cassidy and Kennedy, Congressman Graves and Richmond, along with our other members, as they work to pass the largest financial assistance package in the history of the United States, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, or CARES Act. It was swift action that was taken from our Congress and from our President to keep our economy afloat and to keep our families afloat. With the passage of the CARES Act and the speed with which these dollars are intended to flow, our congressional delegation members are working to transition this crisis into opportunities to address both immediate and long-term issues in our community. And I will continue working with them through this effort. On the state level, our Governor, John Bel Edwards, and his team have been forthright, honest, and transparent with all of us about the impact of coronavirus in our state. Delivering the news our governor has had to deliver in the past 3 weeks is not something any leader wants to tell their people. And I want to thank our governor for being an established and trusted leader, one that our citizens know is being steadfast, led by his faith, his intellect, and his heart. And I'm grateful to how open he has been in communicating with me and my team during this time. On a local level, I want to highlight for our citizens a few of the actions we have taken since this coronavirus fight began 3 weeks ago. And I highlight these to underscore what a resilient community we are. It is our resilience through past challenges and disasters that lead me to the firm belief that we can remain hopeful about our future as a community. When this pandemic began, we organized our response into a whole community approach, incorporating our all hazards recovery plan and engaging with many private and nonprofit organizations and numerous stakeholders from our community to ensure we captured and addressed the immediate impacts of this virus. It is how this community immediately rose up to change the way we lead, how restaurants have adapted their business models, how small business owners have adapted in order to keep employees on the payroll, how companies are adapting their product lines to provide needed supplies. These are the reasons that we know we will thrive again. It is important to note that we, as a city parish government, have continued delivering essential services to our citizens. Garbage and recycling services, maintenance of our streets and drainage canals, and planning for major infrastructure projects through our MOVE EBR traffic mitigation plan are all continuing to happen. And I want to certainly recognize our DPW crews who are out there in our community continuing to work for the benefit of our citizens during this time. Please, if you see our public employees working, take a moment and give them a word of thanks. We have worked with numerous community partners to find solutions to issues like feeding those in need with our Head Start, school system, and Council on Aging, providing child care for healthcare workers and first responders, ways to get resources to our homeless prevention providers and our homeless population, communicating resources on public safety and domestic violence, and a host of other challenges that arose in response to this pandemic. To our first responders, nurses, and doctors, those on the front line of battling this pandemic, our entire Baton Rouge community expresses to you our deepest gratitude. We support you, we pray for you, and we praise the tireless efforts you're demonstrating during this time. Even during this time of concern, you provide hope and comfort to our citizens. We are encouraged by the possibility of another stimulus bill, including hazard pay for you all. And I have expressed my full support for this to our congressional leaders, and I will continue seeking out ways to recognize your service. In addition to a health toll, I recognize that this pandemic is also having an economic toll on our community. Protecting our economy is an aspect I continue to focus on with a number of our community partners. In the past 3 weeks, I've signed executive orders declaring a public health emergency in our parish, prohibiting the disconnection of utilities in our parish, extending local sales tax payments to support businesses, temporarily waiving our sign ordinance in support of small businesses, and temporarily suspending the ordinance governing the revocation of bar licenses. All of these are ways we are extending help to our local and small businesses and their employees. We are protecting our economy with the great partnership and leadership of Baton Rouge Area Chamber and many others. And you will see in the coming weeks ahead in which we are taking every action step to support local small businesses. Efforts like Keep BR Serving and communicating ways in which our citizens and businesses can apply for stimulus funds are ways we have come together to support our local economy. Working with our hospital partners, hearing their concerns about the potential for an overrun of their emergency departments, we banded together to stand up our community testing site. And let me say to our citizens that this community testing site was not a federally funded or federally supported effort. This is your local government in partnership with your local healthcare providers in our community. And since we have opened this site for the past 3 weeks, we have tested nearly 1,500 citizens there with manpower and resources provided voluntarily by your local hospitals. We recognize the need for additional personal protective equipment for our healthcare workers. And so in addition to writing to our president about this concern, we partnered with the Baton Rouge Health District to establish a PPE donation site. Once again, this was not a federally funded or federally supported effort. This is your local business, industry, and healthcare providers coming together, volunteering to stand up and execute this effort. Over the past 3 weeks, I have held a daily call with elected officials from around this parish because I believe fervently this is not a time for politics, but for leadership from all levels, and a time for cooperation amongst those who have a platform as public servants. And I want to thank them for their leadership. We've met with grocery providers, business leaders, faith-based leaders, hospital executives, nonprofit and community resource leaders, young people and parents, all planning for both immediate response needs as well as the long-term needs for our community. And I will continue my close communication with these groups in order to hear and understand their concerns as we continue through this pandemic, creating solutions to any issue. And today I am happy to announce we are launching an East Baton Rouge Parish Emergency Preparedness Text Alert System for critical updates on COVID-19 information. Citizens can text the words "Red Stick Ready" to the number 225-243-9991 to opt in to our parish alert system. This is an East Baton Rouge specific alert system, specifically for East Baton Rouge Parish, and it will be utilized for our current COVID-19 response updates, as well as critical community updates for future natural and man-made disasters impacting our parish. Once again, text the words "Red Stick Ready" to the number 225-243-9991. Continuing to look forward in the coming weeks, you will see a series of financial planning events for our community in partnership with a number of local nonprofits. We will continue working with our hospitals to evaluate and expand their capacity and inventory of protective equipment. We're going to continue rolling out ways to protect our economy by connecting businesses with SBA and other federal resources. We will be evaluating the data surrounding this virus to access its long-term impacts on our community. And we will be pushing out our consistent message to stay calm, stay at home, and stay strong. I would also like to express a note of gratitude to our media. You are truly a public service to our citizens, particularly during this time of great concern for our communities. You provide relevant and useful information that citizens need to know, and we recognize you all are also adapting your business processes to accommodate social distancing needs and other areas. So thank you to all of our local media for your assistance during this time. As I close and before I take questions, let me speak directly once again to our community. We will get through this. I recognize that there are a lot of voices out there that are trying to come into our lives and create panic. Our community needs to take a deep breath and know that we are headed in the right direction. In this time of social distancing, let's come to a greater understanding of the ways in which we can support and lift one another up. Let us choose to see and to be the light for others in this time of temporary darkness. Lift up your prayers, choose to understand the changes that are occurring in our lives, to accept those things we cannot control, and to continue being patient and loving with one another. We are Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish. We have been through a lot, and we will get through this. This virus had a beginning, it will peak, and it will come to an end. We need to continue being the resilient and responsible parish that we are. Each and every citizen is really a part of the team, and I want to thank you for continuing to do your part.
Mayor, you referenced that we are doing a pretty good job, people complying to the stay-at-home orders. Does that mean that there's no discussions right now about possible curfews that we see happening in other areas?
Absolutely. We have not decided to do a curfew at this time, but I will tell you, Terry, that we stand ready and to implement a curfew if we need to. As you know, each community has individual characteristics, especially various challenges, individual challenges for each community during this season of fighting the coronavirus. As we are in compliance and working towards compliance, but let me just say this, we can't afford to be comfortable. We can't afford to be comfortable. We're headed in the right direction with compliance, but we've got to continue to flatten that curve, and that means we've got to have people stay at home. I know people are getting a little anxious. I know we're about to embark, as I said, on the Easter season, which usually means family gathering around food and fellowship. But for this season, we've got to stay at home. And so we will implement a curfew only if we believe it is necessary. I've had conversations with law enforcement, and they stand ready to do that. But right now, in East Baton Rouge Parish, we do not see that it is necessary for us to implement a curfew. Yes.
Can you tell me, you were talking about the economy a second ago and about sales tax. Can you tell me about the sales tax loss for the city, and if so, what does that mean for the city parish budget?
So as it relates to our sales taxes, and before we implemented these executive orders, we looked at our budget, and we feel that even in light of, for example, delaying the payment of sales taxes for our businesses, even in light of not penalizing those bars at the end of this year, that we can still sustain our dedicated services and our basic services to the citizens as we move forward. Thankfully, we have a reserve fund that we can turn to, but we are making sure that we look at this pandemic even through a fiscally conservative lens, meaning that we are not going to be frivolous about our spending. But as I shared with you in our message, we've got to look towards the future. And I want to see these businesses in our community revive and thrive again. So until we get to that point, as an administration, as a city parish government, we're going to carefully look at every way that we can offer some relief to our businesses. As you heard me say maybe a week or so ago, we've joined in partnership with some area restaurants, and we have our serving up and running to help restaurants and those servers. 30% of those gift cards will go to the servers. So not only are we just looking at our city parish government to offer relief for our businesses, but we're looking innovatively and creatively at every angle to see how we can help sustain our businesses through this trying time. Any other questions?
As the days go on, Mayor, you start to hear more and more about prominent names in the community who have either been tested positive or unfortunately died from the virus. Has anyone in your family been diagnosed, or personal friends, or even any city parish employees for that matter?
Well, of course, we can't discuss city parish employees because of HIPAA regulations, but I will tell you personally, no one in my immediate family has been diagnosed, but I do know people who I'm in close relationship in other areas of the country that have succumbed to this virus. And so, whether you know somebody up close and personal, or whether you know somebody who knows somebody, it still touches you because it is so it is having such an impact on so many people. And as I have often said, whether you know someone now who has the virus or is going through this, or whether you don't, eventually you will, because it's a global pandemic and it's touching so many lives. But it's my hope and prayer that as we move forward, that we adhere to all of the guidelines so we don't have to have those conversations, those trying conversations about loss in our community. I noticed in the paper this morning you had the story about the gentleman who passed. Ironically, he and his wife came to visit with me last year in one of my 15 minutes with the mayor. And so I did reach out to his wife. But so you see, it puts a face on it with people who you have met or encountered. And so I was very sorry to hear that, and certainly that family and other families in our East Baton Rouge parish who we may know and may not know personally are certainly in our prayers, and we are impacted by that. Any other questions? Yes.
Recently, we've been seeing photos surfacing on the on webs and news sources about people continue to gather in large gatherings. Personally, how does that make you feel that people are some people are not listening, and what threat does that pose for, I guess you could say, the city?
Yeah, I am very. Let me put it like this: I am strongly disappointed and disheartened when I see large gatherings take place. Because I don't know what it's going to take when you have the federal level, the state level, and the local level telling you don't have big gatherings, stay home so we can get beyond this. This is a serious situation. This is a very serious situation, and if people don't get it by now, I don't know what it's going to take for people to understand the severity of this situation that we're dealing with, and to understand that we don't have a remedy, a medical remedy to address the issue. And so for many, when we talk about stay home, they're like, what does that mean? How's that going to help? Well, it does help. It helps you from giving someone else the virus. It helps you from contracting the virus. So these steps that we're talking about, this just isn't some playground stuff that we're talking about. This is serious business. This is, you know, it sounds like when we say wash your hands. Maybe it sounds like when we say stay 6 feet apart. Maybe it sounds like when we say stay at home. But this is the way we work ourselves out of this virus. It's just practicing those simple admonitions and directives.
Any other questions?
Thank you all. Stay safe.